G'day folks, I'm Dr. Zoe Mitchell, and if you're an older bloke who's been wondering about something that most people reckon is too awkward to talk about, well, you've come to the right place. I've been practicing medicine for over 20 years now, and let me tell you, there's one conversation that comes up in my clinic more often than you'd think, but rarely gets discussed openly. What I'm about to share with you today could genuinely change the way you think about your health as you get older. Now, I know what you're thinking. You've clicked on this video and you're probably hoping no one walks past your screen right now. But here's the thing, mate. What we're going to discuss today is purely about your health. There's nothing dodgy about it. We're talking about masturbation, and specifically, why it might be one of the best things you can do for yourself as you age. I've had countless men sit across from me in my practice, blokes in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, and they're embarrassed to bring this up. They'll talk about their blood pressure, their cholesterol, their dodgy knee, but when it comes to their sexual health, suddenly they go quiet. And that's a real shame, because the science is clear, and I mean properly peer-reviewed, published in major journals clear, that regular sexual activity, including masturbation, has genuine health benefits for older men. Before we go any further, I want to tell you about a patient of mine. Let's call him Barry. Barry came to see me a few years back. He was 72, recently widowed, and feeling pretty bloody miserable. His wife had passed 18 months earlier, and he told me he felt like his body was just shutting down. He wasn't sleeping well. He had no energy, and frankly, he felt like his manhood had packed up and left town. Now, Barry was embarrassed when I asked about his sexual health. He said, "Doc, I'm 72. That part of my life is over, isn't it?" And I told him something that I'm going to tell you today. It doesn't have to be over. And in fact, maintaining some form of sexual activity could help with almost every complaint he'd just listed. Look, I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong. I know some of you might have religious or personal beliefs about this topic, and I respect that completely. What I am here to do is share the medical evidence with you, because you deserve to know what the research says. And by the way, I've popped links to all the studies I'm going to mention in the description below, because I know some of you want to check these things out for yourselves. Fair enough too. Right, let's get into it. Why should older men consider regular masturbation as part of their health routine? First up, and this is a big one, we're talking about blood flow. As we get older, our circulation isn't what it used to be, especially if you've spent most of your working life sitting at a desk or behind the wheel. The blood flow to certain parts of your body can get pretty sluggish. Now, the penis is basically a hydraulic system, right? It needs good blood flow to function properly. When you don't use it, the tissue can actually start to deteriorate. There was a study published in the American Journal of Medicine that found regular sexual activity, and yes, that includes masturbation, was associated with a significantly lower risk of erectile dysfunction in older men. The researchers followed thousands of blokes over several years, and the pattern was clear. Use it or lose it, as they say. I had another patient. Let's call him Doug. Doug was 65 and came to me worried because things weren't working like they used to downstairs. Now, Doug had been divorced for about 5 years, wasn't in a relationship, and had basically stopped any sexual activity altogether. He figured, well, what's the point? But that's exactly the wrong approach. I explained to Doug that regular masturbation could actually help maintain his erectile function by keeping the blood flowing to the area and keeping the tissue healthy. 3 months later, Doug came back and told me things had improved significantly. He was sleeping better, he had more energy, and yeah, things were working again. Now, let's talk about something that affects a lot of older men, the prostate. Prostate problems are incredibly common as we age. Everything from benign enlargement to, unfortunately, prostate cancer. Here's where it gets really interesting. Harvard Medical School conducted one of the largest studies on this topic. They followed over 30,000 men for decades, and what they found was remarkable. Men who ejaculated frequently, and we're talking about 21 times or more per month, had a significantly lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to men who ejaculated less frequently. Now, I'm not saying you need to hit that number, but the theory behind it makes sense. Regular ejaculation helps flush out the prostate, removing potentially harmful substances and carcinogens that can build up over time. It's a bit like changing the oil in your car regularly. You're keeping things clean and running smoothly. And look, I know what some of you are thinking. 21 times a month? That's basically every day. But here's the thing. Any increase in frequency is likely to have some benefit. You don't have to be breaking any records here. Just maintaining some regular activity is the key. Let's move on to something that affects so many older Aussie blokes. Sleep. How many of you are lying awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling? Sleep problems are incredibly common as we age, and they can have a real knock-on effect on your health. Poor sleep is linked to heart disease, diabetes, cognitive decline, you name it. Well, here's something that might help. When you have an orgasm, your body releases a cocktail of hormones, including prolactin and oxytocin. These hormones promote relaxation and drowsiness. The Mayo Clinic published research showing that the release of prolactin after orgasm can help induce a deep state of relaxation, making it easier to fall asleep and stay asleep. I've had patients tell me they've ditched their sleeping pills after incorporating this into their routine. Now, I'm not saying you should stop any medication without talking to your doctor first, but it's worth considering as a natural alternative. No side effects, no grogginess the next morning, and it's completely free. Speaking of hormones, let's chat about mood and mental health. Depression and anxiety are serious issues for older men, and unfortunately, a lot of blokes don't like to talk about it. We're taught to just harden up and get on with it, but that's not how the brain works. During masturbation and orgasm, your body releases endorphins and dopamine. These are your natural feel-good chemicals. They're the same ones that get released when you exercise or eat chocolate, but often in higher concentrations. A study published in Biological Psychology found that orgasm was associated with increased dopamine levels, which can improve mood and help alleviate symptoms of depression. I think about Barry again, the widower I mentioned earlier. Part of his low mood was grief, obviously, but part of it was also biochemical. His body had stopped producing those regular hits of feel-good hormones that come with sexual activity. When he started incorporating regular masturbation into his routine, he noticed a genuine improvement in his overall mood. He wasn't cured of his grief, but he felt more capable of handling it. Now, here's one that might surprise you. Pain relief. A lot of older men deal with chronic pain. Whether it's your back, your joints, or something else, pain is often just part of daily life as we get older. But here's the thing. Those endorphins I mentioned, they're not just feel-good chemicals. They're also natural painkillers. A study in the Journal of Pain found that orgasm could provide significant pain relief. The endorphins and other neurotransmitters released during climax help block pain signals. Some of my patients with chronic conditions have found that regular masturbation actually helps them manage their pain levels. It's not going to replace proper medical treatment, but it can be a useful tool in your arsenal. Let's talk about the immune system for a minute. As we age, our immune system naturally becomes less effective. We're more susceptible to infections, and we take longer to recover when we do get sick. Well, here's some good news. Research published in the journal Neuroimmunomodulation found that sexual activity, including masturbation, can actually stimulate your immune system by increasing the number of white blood cells in your body. On top of that, orgasm leads to a temporary decrease in cortisol, the stress hormone. Chronically, high cortisol levels can suppress your immune function, so anything that helps bring those levels down is a good thing. In other words, regular masturbation might actually help you fight off that cold going around the office. Well, maybe not the office anymore for most of you retired blokes, but you know what I mean. Now, I want to address something that I know is relevant to a lot of you: maintaining your libido and sexual function. Just because you're not in a relationship doesn't mean your body stops needing sexual expression. And just because you are in a relationship doesn't mean you can't also take matters into your own hands, so to speak. A study in the Journal of Sex Research found that regular masturbation helps men maintain their erectile capability. It keeps the neural pathways active and the blood vessels healthy. Think of it as exercise for your sexual system. You wouldn't expect to run a marathon without training, and you can't expect things to work perfectly downstairs if you never give them a workout. For those of you who do have partners, maintaining your own sexual function through masturbation can actually improve your partnered sex life. You'll have more confidence, better stamina, and a better understanding of what works for you. All right, now I need to talk about something important, and I want you to really listen to this part. Masturbation and pornography are not the same thing. I've deliberately separated these topics because while masturbation has genuine health benefits, excessive pornography consumption can actually be harmful. Look, I'm not here to be a wowser. I'm not going to tell you that looking at some adult content occasionally is going to ruin your life, but I do need to warn you about the risks of regular pornography use, especially as we get older. Here's what happens. Pornography triggers the release of large amounts of dopamine in your brain. Over time, your brain becomes less sensitive to dopamine, which means you need more and more stimulation to get the same response. This is similar to what happens with drug addiction. A study in the Journal of Behavioral Psychiatry found that regular pornography consumption can actually change the structure and function of your brain, leading to memory problems, difficulty concentrating, and poor impulse control. For older men, this is particularly concerning because our brains are already dealing with age-related changes. We don't need to add extra stress on top of that. There's also the issue of sexual function. The International Society of Sexual Medicine published research showing that men who regularly consume pornography are more likely to experience erectile dysfunction. The theory is that your brain becomes so accustomed to the hyperstimulation of pornography that normal sexual experiences don't trigger the same response. I had a patient, let's call him Frank. Frank was 68 and came to me because he was having trouble performing with his new partner. Everything checked out physically, but when I asked about his habits, it turned out Frank had been using pornography pretty heavily since his divorce 5 years earlier. We worked on reducing his pornography use, and within a few months, his sexual function with his partner improved dramatically. So here's my recommendation. If you want to get the health benefits of masturbation, try to do it without pornography. Use your imagination, think about pleasant memories, or simply focus on the physical sensations. Your brain will thank you, and your body will too. Now, let's talk practical advice, because I know that's what a lot of you want. How often should you be doing this? Well, the research doesn't give us a magic number, but based on the studies I've mentioned, several times a week seems to be a good target for most of the benefits. Some research suggests daily might be even better for prostate health, but honestly, do what feels right for you. There's no exam at the end of this. What if you have health conditions? If you've got heart problems, for example, you might be worried about the physical exertion. The good news is that masturbation is generally very safe. It's much less strenuous than you might think. That said, if you've got serious health concerns, have a chat with your doctor. I promise you, we've heard it all before, and we won't bat an eyelid. What about if things aren't working the way they used to? This is really common, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Sometimes it takes longer to get aroused, or you might not climax as easily. That's all normal with age. Take your time, don't put pressure on yourself, and focus on the sensation rather than the outcome. If you're consistently having problems, though, it's worth seeing your doctor to rule out any underlying issues. I want to finish by coming back to Barry, my 72-year-old widower. 6 months after our initial conversation, Barry came back for a checkup. He looked like a different man. He was sleeping better. He had more energy. His mood had lifted, and he told me he felt more like himself than he had in years. He was even thinking about getting back into the dating scene. Now, I'm not saying masturbation was the only factor in Barry's improvement. He'd also started walking regularly, reconnected with some old mates, and was generally taking better care of himself. But he told me that giving himself permission to maintain his sexual health was a big part of his recovery. He'd stopped feeling like his life was over and started feeling like he still had plenty to offer. That's what I want for all of you. Whether you're 60, 70, 80, or beyond, your sexual health matters. It's connected to your physical health, your mental health, and your overall quality of life. You deserve to feel good in your body, whatever age you are. So, to sum up, regular masturbation can improve your blood flow, protect your prostate, help you sleep better, boost your mood, provide pain relief, strengthen your immune system, and maintain your sexual function. The research is solid, and the benefits are real. Just try to keep the pornography out of it, and you'll be doing yourself a favor. All right, that's it from me today. I hope you found this useful, and I hope it's given you something to think about. If you did find it helpful, give the video a thumbs up and maybe share it with a mate who might benefit. I know it's an awkward topic to bring up, but honestly, we need to start talking about these things more openly. There's nothing shameful about taking care of your health, no matter what aspect of health we're talking about. As always, if you've got any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, drop them in the comments below. I read all of them, even if I can't respond to every single one. And remember, I've put links to all the studies I mentioned in the description, so if you want to do your own research, go for it. Take care of yourselves, gentlemen. You've earned it. And I'll see you in the next video.